Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about some of the expenses that are associated with being a content creator. And I thought that I would delve into this a little bit more today because I know in previous videos I have spoken about my budget overall, and I've really spoken about my general expenses and my income. I've recently put out a video that really goes through our in-depth budget, my partner and I's budget, and I think that it's good to be transparent with that kind of thing. And I really didn't go too in-depth with the expenses in that video. So I really wanted to talk about a little bit more today what some of those expenses are, why I feel the need to pay for them, and maybe this is something that you may want to consider, some of these points depending on what type of content creator you are or if you're a freelancer. I thought it would just be interesting to go through a few of the expenses and talk about, I guess, some of the tax implications for me personally. This is obviously not tax advice, it's not financial advice. I am not qualified to give that, but I think even just from my perspective on things, what I have to look for during the year, what I have to note down as expenses, and what I have to be really wary of is important, and I think it's something that should be talked about on this channel more. But if you're new to these videos, my name is Kaylee and I'm a beauty and fashion photographer based near Sydney, Australia, but I'm also a content creator, and I've started this channel a few years ago to talk about all things business, social media, freelancing, and content creation. And as I said at the beginning of the video, I really feel like budgeting and income finances should come more into this channel. I do feel that it's good to be transparent around finances, and especially when I guess being a content creator is not necessarily like a clean-cut role that you can just kind of jump into and find the information you need. It's not really something you could just do a uni degree for and kind of have a step-by-step process as to how to get into this field and what things are going to look like when you get there. I think it is really difficult for a lot of people to see content creation as a long-term thing as well because of the financial aspects and implications with that. So again, I just want to be really transparent about this kind of thing and talk about some of the expenses today that I have to face personally. So we are going to jump into my budgeting template, and specifically for February. If you haven't seen my video where I talked about the budget for February, it is available on my channel for you to go and watch. So I'll leave the link in the description box below. That is a much longer video though. So this video is going to be a little bit more of a summed up expenses for my business. And if you've seen some of my recent videos as well, especially my monthly resets, you'll know that I use the templates from CoPlenty for like goal tracking, for income, budgeting, all that sort of thing. I really love the templates from CoPlenty. I think they're perfect for what I need them for, especially the budgeting ones. I really, really love them. And we are going to be going through that particular template today. But if you are interested in CoPlenty templates, I do have an affiliate link in the description box below, and you can click on that and also use the discount code which is available. But as I mentioned, we're going to jump into the template now and actually start looking at some of my expenses for my business month to month. Okay, so as we can see, we are in the month of February here for this budget. So there is lots going on, but we are going to focus on a very specific portion of this template, and that is specific expenses. So we're going to scroll down to subscriptions and memberships. Now, this I've actually talked about recently in the other video that I did that I was talking about before that I've linked down below. And a lot of our subscriptions and memberships for my partner and I are really coming down to my business. We don't have a lot of entertainment subscriptions these days. We were finding that they were just that little bit too expensive, and especially in the last few years where the economy kind of just went in the bin, we really had to climb out of it and make sure that we weren't overspending on things that weren't necessary. So we did cut a lot of those subscriptions month to month. Now, if we're looking at the subscriptions and memberships here, you'll see that the total of them come to about $842. So I'm actually going to just highlight the ones that I would consider to be business subscriptions, just so it's easier to view on your screen as well. Okay, so now you can see exactly on my spreadsheet here what are the main business expenses that I am spending month to month. If you hear tapping on the floor, by the way, that's my dog Kaito. So his claws need clipping and it's really easy to hear him walking around. So here we go, we've got all the business expenses highlighted in blue here. So this is for my business. So roughly all of those expenses come to around $300 a month just for my business. And these I would consider to be necessary subscriptions. There are things that you can do, I guess, a little bit differently here, which I will go through. So we're going to start with Flowdesk, and that is my first monthly subscription. And I've mentioned before that Flowdesk is actually a newsletter creation platform platform. So if you are thinking about starting a newsletter as a content creator, which I have done in the past, you can sign up for something like Flowdesk, which will allow you to do it very easily and design beautiful templates, that sort of thing. So I use Flowdesk because it's great and easy to use, which I absolutely love about it. I always have. It's very aesthetic and definitely my kind of vibe when I'm creating my newsletters, especially for my photography business. But Flowdesk I really enjoy, and the fact that I'm only paying $30 a month at the moment for that is actually great because I believe it is worth a little bit more now. I'm paying $30 because I signed up back when it was still in the beta version and they were offering it as more of a lifetime thing. So if you signed up then, you could get it for $30 a month, or I think it might have been $19 US at the time. I believe it's a little bit more expensive now, but if you are interested in Flowdesk, I actually have an affiliate link in the description box below, so you can go and check it out through there. And there is a discount for 50% off your first year of Flowdesk as well. So that is available, which is great. But Flowdesk is something that I've considered to be pretty essential. I haven't been utilizing it as much in the last year for my photography newsletters, but I am planning on doing a newsletter this year for this particular channel and this particular brand of mine. So I think it'd be really nice to have a little bit of a newsletter going out and building an email list. And I think that's really important for a lot of content creators, no matter what field you're in or niche. I think it's great to have an email newsletter and an email list. It's just something else apart from social media that's kind of tangible that you can have that is your own, essentially. You're not relying on a social media site for it. It's a great way to try and get new subscribers or new followers that way as well. The next thing I'm going to go through is my accounting software. My accounting software is with Xero. I've spoken about this before, but I feel that Xero is quite expensive. And again, Xero, if you're watching, I would love to have a sponsorship because I do love using Xero, but yeah, it's $90 a month. So it is pretty steep for, you know, my business. But again, this is something that is tax deductible for me at the end of the year. So it is essentially a business expense anyway. $90, it is quite expensive because I have to use the US dollar function for my invoices, which really helps. And it's a lot easier to have that. It's really difficult because a lot of my clients are actually from overseas, and all the time we're using US dollars, basically, whether the client is from America or whether the client's from Europe or somewhere else. US dollars is kind of like always that standard mode of currency that we're using. So I really need to have that with my invoices, which makes my subscription a little bit more expensive each month. But there are other alternatives out there for invoicing software. There is QuickBooks, which I have used before, but I did explain in my other video where I was talking about my budget. QuickBooks, I've found with a lot of accountants, they prefer to use Xero, at least here in Australia, I've found. And I think they do tend to find QuickBooks a little bit more confusing and maybe not so streamlined. I found that myself personally. I feel that Xero is set out a lot easier to read and everything. So I'm not really skilled with accounting software. So I just need something that's pretty basic that I can use. And that's, you know, Xero really serves that purpose. Now, my next few subscriptions are with Adobe, and that is Premiere Pro and the Photoshop Lightroom bundle. So that is $35 and $15 respectively. I'm a freelance photographer, but I also do lots of other different creative work through Lightroom and Photoshop in particular. And of course with Premiere Pro, that is where I edit all of my videos, and that's where I make all of my content for YouTube. So they are necessities. I feel that there's nothing really much I can do to avoid having to pay for those, except if I wanted to move over to a different platform. For example, there are other alternatives out there. I highly recommend DaVinci Resolve for any of you who are looking for like free video software that you can utilize, especially if you're looking becoming a content creator on YouTube. It's free. DaVinci Resolve is a wonderful, wonderful platform for that. So I definitely recommend going and downloading that one. And in terms of like another alternative to Photoshop Lightroom, I mean, Photoshop, I feel that Affinity Photo is a great alternative to Photoshop, and you can actually buy a lifetime subscription, which means you don't have to keep paying for it, which is really wonderful. I really like Affinity Photo for that. And there are lots of different other editing programs that are very similar to Lightroom out there. So I wouldn't necessarily just feel that you have to go with Adobe. I feel that for me, it is pretty industry standard in a way. And I do actually pay, I noticed that there's something else on here that's technically not here. And I guess it's because I pay it yearly, but it's my Capture One subscription. And Capture One is more so, I guess, like a Lightroom alternative. But again, you can spend a little bit more extra money and have a lifetime subscription or a buyout kind of option with it, which is also a good option. Then we're going through my storage. So I think for any creator or anyone in the digital media space, you need storage. You need cloud storage or online storage. it is really essential. I pay about roughly $20 a month. However, I do share the Google storage with my partner. My Apple storage is mainly for my personal things, definitely associated with my iPhone, and personal photos and things like that is usually what I use that storage for and backing that up. My Google storage, though, specifically is for my business. I pretty much use that for everything business related, and I just find it's really easy, especially because I've got a few different like out of sync devices where I've got an iPhone, I've got a PC in terms of like laptop and my desktop. So you're working with like Microsoft and Apple, and they don't really always sync up very well. So Google is that great middleman between all of them, and I can easily get content from my phone to Google and vice versa. And then the last business expense here that I've got is my phone bill. So this I wouldn't consider an entire business expense, and definitely when I'm claiming for things like tax, they'll usually only allow me to claim a portion of it for my business. So whether it's like 30% roughly that I use for my business, then that's what I would claim. But yes, that is considered another business expense each month, and I can actually claim part of that on tax. And then in terms of other things to claim for, especially tax-wise, I would really be looking at my utilities because my business is primarily based from home. Really looking at things like electricity, internet is going to be important to make sure you're noting down how much you're paying each month, a percentage of what you're paying. I'm not really sure how it works in other countries, but again, this is more of like a proportionate thing that I would claim through the tax system here in Australia. I wouldn't claim the whole amount each month. It would just be a portion, but because I am working from home, that is something to really, really consider. Now, a couple of other notes about my expenses, and I personally really feel it's important to keep my expenses low at this point. I personally feel that with the shift that I've had from freelance photography as well to content creation, primarily earning most of my income through content creation at the moment, I have to be a little bit careful of what I'm spending per month. I feel that there's less consistency with this kind of income at the moment as it stands. So it's really easy to kind of get in over your head if you've got too many subscriptions each month going on, and especially things that are unnecessary. I've had to cut back in the past. I'm very lucky in a sense because some of my subscriptions, for example, the copyright safe music that I use currently is complimentary, as I do have an ongoing partnership with Melody. So that's great that there's certain things that I don't need to outlay money for in that respect. Same thing with some other programs that I'm using, PicsArt and Metrical. I have ongoing partnerships with them. So currently, when it comes to scheduling my posts for social media and designing anything graphic related, I know that I can really rely on those programs at the moment, and that is not coming into my business subscriptions each month. However, for you, it may be. So they are some extra things to consider as well. And as I mentioned, you don't need to choose, for example, if you're looking at some of these programs that I've got listed here in my memberships, you don't have to go and spend the same amount of money on each of these things, or you don't necessarily need to go for those platforms. There are many alternatives out there. This is just what I've found to work for me over the years, and some of the things here that are a little bit hard to avoid actually investing in each month. But again, some of the things that are important to think about, I think if you're a content creator and you're really looking at budgeting and really considering your business expenses overall, is that there may be other things that you can potentially also claim on tax, or things to consider with that. So for example, I know that I have to be really considered when I am doing things like trips, because a lot of the time I am doing them as part of content creation. And for example, last year I actually did a couple of collaborations with my partner who also does content creation from time to time. And we did these collaborations with camper van companies. And specifically for these trips, they were essentially work related, and they really were something to note down for the end of financial year, where I can eventually go to my accountant and talk about a lot of the expenses and related expenses I had on that trip for my business, and then go into detail about how I can look at claiming portions of that or certain parts altogether. But essentially, they are my business expenses each month. As I said, I don't like to go too overboard with them. I try and keep them at a minimum. And again, just really the necessities. I think it is very easy, as I mentioned, to go overboard when it comes to subscriptions these days. They're really easy to get, and a lot of them seem really cheap at first, but they really do add up very, very quickly. So I really do believe it is important to keep them at a minimum if possible. Well, I hope you really enjoyed this video today. And if you have any questions about business expenses as a creator or as a content creator in in general, please let me know in the comments section below. I would love to answer your questions. If you're thinking about going for any particular platforms out there, like similar related platforms to this, and you have any questions about those, feel free to as well let me know in the comments section below so I can chat to you a little bit about them and tell you my experience with them. But I'm really happy to have a chat about this kind of thing because I think expenses can be something that's a bit scary for anyone who's looking at becoming a full-time content creator. So hopefully this video has shown you that you really don't need to have a lot of expenses for your content creation business month to month. But of course, everyone's going to be in a different position. And at the moment, I am trying to keep mine low. However, this could very much change in future and other subscriptions could come into play or other expenses. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, make sure you do because I'll be posting a lot more in future. And also make sure to hit the notification bell to see all the updates that I have coming up in future. But thank you so much as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.